thanks to everyone who's joined and who would be joining in our Facebook Live. This is the first uh, session I'm having with Praveen, my childhood friend and long-time acquaintance, as well as an entrepreneur by virtue of himself, and also a sales professional. I've been in sales planning for a while, so together we thought we'll have this FB Live session to give our lessons we learned in our life about how do we stay ahead of the competition and how do we make money, of course. So, hi, Praveen. Thanks
Hi
for joining.
Grenville, thanks for inviting me to your channel.
My
It's
pleasure.
great catching up with you.
Yeah,
Hello viewers, thanks for joining us. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
great. So Praveen, let's start with the first question. Okay, so how do you, what is your point of view on this topic about staying ahead of the competition? What do you do? You're a salesperson, right? So what is the activities you do to stay ahead of the competition from your side?
Yeah, Grenville, with this COVID thing happening, we have been seeing a lot of changes in the market conditions and with the perspective of the customers. And there have been too many things which is moving, getting out of the control. What we followed, like maybe in December, January, doesn't work in March and April. So what we started doing is that we started revisiting our customers' profiles at times. So some of them, when we did not have much relationship there, still we are struggling. So we are just going back with them with emails and contacts. But the customers who had a very strong contact, so they don't want us to visit them for negotiations and things. So they have gone into the, online negotiations. Even most of them, even the bigger companies, they have been using those online things, the teams and other thing inside the office. But when it comes to an external organization, they still struggle. But it was a very good experience that they were also learning, we were also learning. And I think we have did almost like one negotiation was almost like 70 lakhs, which should have been a face-to-face negotiation, but whole team, the customers team was online, and I was sitting from our office, and we just closed the deal in that conversation. It's quite what to say. All our concepts which we have been using in the past need to be revisited and fine-tuned to be staying ahead with the market condition and with our competitors as such.
Great. But what is the competition doing different now? I mean, you're saying the post-COVID, the way you have interacted with the customers have changed, right? But from your
Yes.
competitor side, I'm sure they are also trying to compete in this COVID situation, no? So would
Yes,
you
yes.
think that their style also would have changed and they are trying to do something different as well, no?
Yes, what happened is now, if you say in March, April, May, nobody was thinking about that this pandemic is going to extend so long. So everybody was saying, okay, year end, then normally the first quarter of our business is pretty slow. So we are just taking casual, saying that, okay, things will move on. So we'll be in office in June, so we can catch up on the first quarter and things. The same way, the competitors also were in the same mood. So, but from June onwards, everybody had to revisit this thing, our strategies. So most of them have gone on online marketing and things. So everybody started putting up YouTube videos, Facebook, Twitter advertisement. LinkedIn has become a very famous spot where you're getting it. Like previously, when I used to see the YouTube thing, I don't see any industrial products. Now you tend to see your industrial products also on the YouTube. So that's how the competition is moving, and we did try to work with a digital company to do that. So those people are also saying that now what the business they had in the past and what's happening now is totally changed now. So a lot of people are coming into digital marketing. Even people don't have a presence, so they wanted to make sure that they don't get lost in the digital thing. And like the person who I worked, so they were saying that even the Tata, Siemens, and all those people are spending huge amount of money on on online media. So that's how the competition is moving ahead. So and there was a concept like what I was doing, more of a personal touch. So with these situations on, the new customers or new companies addition becomes difficult. So only with that using your what to say or online media like LinkedIn or any other things to just keep bombarding with our contacts to move get in touch. That's the only way to that we can keep up with the competition as such.
Yeah, actually, that's true. I mean, even my customers, I've seen the same sort of change. As you said, most of the people were forced to go online with the restrictions that they had with personal interaction and with the restriction on travel. So that has, in fact, created this rush to get on the social media. And as we are doing FB Live, you find thousands of FB Lives on, thousands of webinars going on, thousands of free webinars going on. So in the coaching industry as well, which I've been in, I've seen the same sort of trend. Totally, when I came on, there was practically no webinars going on. Maybe one in a week or one in 10 days, you'll see a webinar. Now you'll find 3 webinars a day or 10 webinars a day, depending on the weekend or the normal week. So the way of doing things have definitely changed, but I think the way of handling competition definitely has not changed. I think eventually you have to have your own rules and your own strategy to manage your business and your niche. And then, of course, the competitive actions will be in the way that would affect you to a certain extent. But I think if your strategies and your direction are clear, I think they would keep you ahead of the competition. At least this is my perception from my customers.
Yeah, I agree with you, Grenville. That's not a problem. As you said, what happened is like it's become a buyer's market.
Mm,
Okay,
mm,
the customers are the ones who are what to say. They are the ones who are pulling the strings and moving on. It the competition again. It depends on the person from my competitor as such. If he's a what to say, if he's a fresh guy, not too much of experience, and because a couple of negotiations when I had with my customer, the first question, even knowing them for a long time, the first question they were saying is like, Praveen, you need to take this order due to COVID situation, there's no orders going anywhere. So you need to give a higher discount and surely take this order. The customers also started using this as a very good technique to pressurize the competition to get into what is a flat fall and do it. And lot of people like because they have the people who had grown very fast in last 2 years. Basically, the competition which has gone fast in 2 years they have extended their arms so much that they are not able to maintain the minimum cost of running. So they have also gone into the market saying going with the very flat prices and trying to win the orders on that. But that's an interim strategy, but it's not going to help you on the long line. And ultimately, what happened is the certain of the things, the deliveries and the commitments, which we have been missing us in Indian industry, we have been missing on commitments. So those are the ones which have been critical during these times. So the customer, previously it was like they were just looking at the price because we are always present with them. Now they know that we cannot be there. So now they have kept the price as the second part of it and they want the deliverables with us. So who's been giving them a good support and things, they get a better lead from the customers as such, and chance of closing even you are slightly higher customer yet gives you a chance to stay in the race as such.
I think you nailed that. See, the important part is that in a market where you're trying to survive, you would have to compromise whether you're the buyer or the seller, right? So that
Yeah,
is always going to be a short-term turn that it will take. I mean, today's situation, everybody is trying to make their edge, but in the end, the margins are what get affected, not the overall end user price, because they want to motivate the end user to buy. Correct. So that would
that's true.
trigger them to go out there and try and drop their prices to the end user and make them buy more or buy quicker, maybe not buy more. But the problem what happens is that they still do not want to squeeze their margins. So in the effort
Yeah,
of trying to sustain their margins, they eventually reach the manufacturer or the supplier and try to squeeze your margins, which is a normal supply chain mentality that you have in any marketing situation.
that
But
is
what
true.
I've seen my customers do, and some really enterprising customers, is that they have walked away from certain business. In certain cases where they were
Oh, okay.
desperate, they have done that. As you said, sometimes it's a matter of survival. So you will have to compromise and say, okay, let me lose in the short run and retain my customers for the long term. So that is also a part of your business strategy, is to keep your customer too. But there is a certain point after which you get into a price war, because if the competition is desperate, There is no end to which they will go. And as you were mentioning, some competition even go below price. They actually go at a
Yeah.
loss. Just to, again, they're also trying to sustain their customers. So they're doing no different from what we do. But what I see,
I would.
yeah, please.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, finish, please.
Yeah. So since you said about this thing, I have two interesting instance which happened just last week itself. So one was I had been with the dealer and we were been talking about how business is going on and all these things. So once I had even mentioned him like you people are doing so aggressive and you are just working for the banks. So, and when I was sitting with him and he came back and said, I asked him, how's the business doing? He said, I'm happy and I'm doing good business. I said, what do you mean by happy and doing good business? People are saying no business. No, Praveen, what I did is I cut my unwanted customers who had very difficult terms. So we just avoided them and went with the existing customers. And he says, I'm just, every month I'm saving so much of money paying to the bank interest. He says, that makes me very happy that I'm doing a business which is good. This money I can shift it into market or with my employees to make them more, more enthusiastic to do the things on it. And he says, with the limited staff, I'm able to do it. My payments are coming in time. I'm able to supply. No hassles of this is not there, that is not there, no follow-ups, nothing of this sort. That makes it very interesting. The second incident was which happened yesterday. So yesterday I came back from one of my customers' visit back. Unfortunately, my bike had a problem, so I just met up with a person who shares in the same complex. He also had a bullet, so it was just a mutual help that he was trying to help. And he said, "No, your battery is conked off, so you need to do something else." So then, since I was there, we were sitting in his office, so I was just chatting up with him. So this guy have started, just before the COVID, he has started online business for supplying of fish and meat. So I was asking, I got curious, like, because it's a very bad time to start a business in January, and then within 2 months, COVID comes in. And is it, Praveen, frankly speaking, thank God, nothing is, I've not made big money, but at the same time, I've not lost my customers. So things are interesting. Then you were saying that I can supply the meat and fish to Danzo and all those things. So I was asking, next question came at this, like, what is the region he was operating? So I thought he would say, because my office is in Andheri, I was thinking that he would say Andheri and nearby. But to my surprise, he said, I even supply to Bombay Fort and those areas, and even to Navi Mumbai. And then he said, I will tell you a surprising instant. I got an opportunity to sell it to Pune. I said, Pune, from Bombay to Pune, how will you manage your logistics cost and all that thing? Then he said, Praveen, the interesting part is one of the customers gave me an order for all of that time no fish was available. So he gave an order for some $4,000. He said, I was interested to supply because we had some stock and we wanted to go on. So suddenly he said, I had a thought process going on. Why don't I talk to my customer and tell them, like, I need some help from you. Why don't you gather some more people so that I can come as a one shot and give? He said, you would be surprised. I got 18,000 worth of orders from the customer, same customer. He had got it with his friends. And he said, we took a tempo, we had all the passes and things. Even we charged them some delivery fee. Even customers were happy. And he said the quality of the product, what we gave us, we are not happy about it because at that time everything was frozen food. So the customers were saying that forget about the fish. What kind of fish you have and how is it? We were happy that you are able to supply us, and we wanted to have fish so desperately that even it's a frozen, we are happy to it. And he says it created a new, different way of selling. Nobody would have thought that he could be selling to Pune from sitting in Bombay. So he says that gives us enough things that we can stretch our hands to do more business on it. So he was saying that what we are trying to do is we try to move our market, maybe plan a visit. We make a weekly sale or something to Pune and things like that. So everybody is coming out with something new. That's what that's as the topic says. You say stay ahead of competition because this market is too competitive, and it is all these Dunzo and all this thing is a localized thing. Even with that, he says we have some personal contacts and existing customers keep coming. So he says even in this trouble times, I'm finding it more comfortable to do business rather than crying about what's happening around.
I think you said the right words, Praveen. I think even in the worst situation, there is always an opportunity out there somewhere, right? I think a
Yes,
versatile businessman will always look at where he can steer his business to capitalize on that opportunity. You can't be
that
sitting
is
saying I was doing something and I want to stick to this because that's fine. I mean, you would still stay in your core competent segment of the market. But if there is an opportunity out there, you have to seize that moment and capitalize on it. That's how you keep your
yeah,
business running in the short term. Now, it also could open up doors to a total new venture altogether. And that is something that is very rare to come in good times. Even in good times, you find people are really struggling to find something new and to take the risk to do it because they say things are going fine, I'm making good money. Why should I now go and try a new venture? Right now,
yeah,
when you are in a bad situation, you have nothing to lose. So it's even
that
much
is
more
true.
easier to take that risk because you practically lose less in this situation than you would in a good situation. So that actually helps the people to take that step forward and take the risk. And actually, I've seen many customers start so many new things which they would not have imagined doing in a good situation. Because, for example, I'm working with quite a few coaches who have a core industrial expertise where they believe that they're good at coaching only in that. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
In this
I
situation, when they went online, I mean, there's something, for example, if you're a coach or a consultant for engineering, okay, you can't go and interact with people in a factory now, right? So the
yes,
coaches, what they've done is they've created online courses now to train you in a specific sort of what do you call expertise with videos of a machine or a model of a machine, right? Which they would never have done in a normal situation because the need was not there. They would just go to the floor with the guy in his factory and sit down there and talk to him and say, "Yeah, do this, do that, and advise them and go forward." So I think you're absolutely right. I think in a bad situation like COVID, it actually opens up new avenues and new opportunities where you can actually do better and earn more money.
that's absolutely right, Grenville. I would relate to you on a couple of things, like the people from Tirupur industry when COVID happened, and all of them, like all the tailors and all those people, were almost like they shut shop for almost 3 months. And when the government information of that they need the suits and the masks, all the tailoring people and all those things, they started making masks at such a cheap rate. And what they did is like, what it was costing, like something around the manufacturing cost was around 12 rupees. So it came down to almost like 1.5, 2 rupees, even including the labor. And all of them were making some amount of profit on it. And when I was coming recently, I was just passing through a tailor shop. So that guy, apart from his shirt, what he has put the different type of mask which he can make. So he has put all the different masks. It's not the standard one what we get. He has gone with all the variants and he put it on his showroom to tell the customers about it. That's right.
Praveen, one second. One of the viewers is saying that your microphone is echoing. So maybe you should try
Okay,
to correct it.
okay, it's okay now.
Thanks, Parthasarthi. Is it okay now? Okay, keep going. I mean, we'll try
Yeah.
and correct it as we go.
So, lot of new things, lot of new things. This what actually when we started the pandemic, we were insufficient on what is it, mask and suits. So now, as of today, we are the largest exporter of mask and suits worldwide. So people are getting different. People are getting different, and they wanted to change that. And the other instance which I wanted to tell you is like you were talking about engineering and things. So we had to have our company had to renew our ISO 9000. So normally the auditors would come to our shop of plant. It will be like 2 days of all checking document. Then he would ask us cross checking and things. So this time it was something surprising. This guy said, I will be available on the Microsoft Teams on the whole day. And he started getting each department into the conversation. And even the records, people were able to show him online. So they were using the computer camera to show them online to check all the documentations. And the guy openly said it's one of the the best experience I had to, because, and he said this is the first time I'm doing it online, and it's for almost for everybody. But eventually, by the end of the day, everybody was happy that the license was renewed, and he did not he did not budge to the regular protocol. So he had to be able to complete the complete protocol, which he would have done it as a person. But these are something very very interesting times, I would say.
As you were saying,
Oh,
see, the point here today is that we have means and ends to look at new avenues where we could go and find new businesses. But I think the important part is to make sure we have a calculated risk and what we are trying to take at the same time, not to go overboard and go out there and try and find every single business out there and start taking it. But there is also a downside to that as well, right? You don't want to end
yeah,
up
that's true.
getting into something that you do not know where you understand. That example you said that the person that did the fish business in Pune, right? Now
Yeah,
he is starting a new venture already, so for him it was a learning, and that risk factor was comparatively less. But if we are taking
that's
ourselves
true.
to a new segment altogether, okay, which we have never put our
Yes.
foot in before, we have a huge risk, right? So it's all about striking a balance between a risk versus return. So I think you're absolutely right. Now, what I've done with most of my customers is that wherever we have established a business plan, we have gone back and reviewed the basis of our assumptions. Because you always start
Okay.
a plan from a base level, right? You have a base where you build up your projections and your future estimates. So what we've done is that we have made sure that everything that you go, it goes and gives you a clear-cut feedback on where you stand today compared to what it was pre-COVID. So your base has changed.
Yeah.
So you build on this base and do your projections, which could be, of course, totally wrong because nobody is going through COVID every day, right? So for them, it's going to be a different estimate and a different risk factor. But I think a year from down the line, we would have seen the whole COVID effect on the overall business model itself. So then they would have a much more firmer model to work off. And the good part about COVID is that we have never had a pandemic, at least in my lifetime, we never had a pandemic to this extent. We have had the economic crisis in 2008, right? We've seen those slowdowns which were somewhere regionalized and somewhere across the world, which had a huge impact on the overall business, but not to the extent of the pandemic. This is like shut down everything. I mean, we had economic slowdown, but this is economic shutdown. So it's a new way which would help us, all the planning industry at least, to review the way we do planning itself. There's an option known as probability planning, which has a deviation of maximum of 15%. So any risk that you
Okay.
have up to 15%, you can have a probability model and set it up that it would absorb that shock. But a thing like a pandemic, where 100% gets affected, no
That's
level
true.
of planning can accommodate that. So I
That's
think
true.
what we are doing now is we are having a good. I mean, we can't say good is not a good word for COVID, but it's a sort of learning experience that the whole industry is going through right now, where they will actually be able to use this in the future, okay, to build a risk factor into every estimate they're putting in, saying if something drastic like COVID happens, what would you do?
Mm.
So at least you will not go
Okay.
to zero, right? You will have a backup plan which will negate the effect to a certain extent. You cannot negate it 100%. If you're going to shut down 100%, there's nothing you can do, right? You will have to throw away
Yeah.
perishable goods. You will have to go and devalue your currency. You'll have to do things to bring your economy back. That is a given. But at least you will be prepared with a plan B where you should, well, as you say, rather than selling more, you actually sell less to the right customer and you maximize your profitability from those customers. You cut down your lead time on your financial turnaround where you don't pay financial cost, okay, which is also
Yeah.
a part of your profit evaluation, right? You can do those factors which in a normal situation we don't even think. You get into a cycle of turnover, people don't look at the financial cost that much. But when you have hand to mouth situation, that is when you really should sit and look at things that you can actually bring under your control. So anyway, I think I'm digressing from the old topic. So
No, no,
good
well,
that
no, Grenville, it brings to me an interesting question to ask you. Being a business coach, and your strong point is the business plan. So, already, say, suppose we have done a business plan somewhere in last October or November, which none of us foresee what is going to happen in March and things. So we have done a business plan, and now with the COVID situation, like what would you do when you start? Say the COVID had started in March. I'm just asking, and I wanted to understand what would be, as a coach, what would be your guidance to the team when we made a business plan with all good probabilities happening, and when the pandemic started, how would you take it? And when the pandemic is exceeding for 3 months, how do you treat it? And after 6 months, and now the market is going to go back. So because for me, technically speaking, like the last quarter is the beginning of almost all the companies have written off saying that this year will be a loss.
Correct.
And the first quarter of next year is going to be very important. So for the first quarter, they need to keep everything ready by the last quarter of this year. So I think most of us would be very busy in the last quarter. If it is not January, March and February is going to be like everybody is going to pull off their hairs and run here and there to catch the business. So as a business coach, how would you treat, like what was there in October to March, March to June, June to September?
Okay, first of all, I just want to correct a perception about one thing you mentioned. Okay, you never build a business scenario only on the positive aspect. Okay, you have a
Okay.
base model, which is the most likely model that will take place in a business scenario. That is the model you run with for your target, for your production planning, for your logistical requirement. You use the base model as a model to plan. Okay, but the scenario you build is, one is a positive scenario where you say,
Okay.
if I go and have a bonanza sale, okay, how would I mobilize supply? How would I logistically handle it to compensate and grab that opportunity? That is a positive, right? But you also
Yeah.
have a negative scenario where you say, God forbid, the market hits the ground, okay, and we sink, okay, we go below the flat. How do we manage that? What part of the supply do I curtail? What part of my customers do I go out and subsidize to retain those customers, and which customers I let go? As what you said your customer is doing is a part of the business planning process, inherent design. Okay, so you actually plan for a bad time. Now, I want to tell you a story of one of my customers that I am working with. Okay, the
Okay.
point when we were coming pre-COVID, the world was heading for an economic slowdown. Okay, COVID just made it worse, but we were
Yes.
heading for an economic slowdown. Quarter on quarter, it was a drastic drop in the overall value, and everybody were already seeing financial crunches. People were seeing shortage of funds in the market. People were seeing increasing cost. Everything was coming and showing that you're heading for an economic slowdown. If COVID had not come, most probably this year we would have hit another huge economic slowdown like the 2008. That's why they said we were going for recession, and COVID
Yes.
made it a recession. And the COVID now has become a reason what would have eventually been an economic situation. Okay, so in the business planning process, as I think I've told you, we work on three different windows. One is the quarter, the one quarter that is immediately ahead of you, which is your short-term planning, right? Then you look at 1 year ahead and you look at 5 years ahead. Now, the further you go away, the more the risk of it deviating, right? But you
Mm.
have to make the 3 months firm. So when I was working with my customers, we were forecasting drop in sales. We were forecasting reduced profits. It was not a surprise that the next quarter was going to be bad because the trend was showing that. So we were putting in policies and putting in strategies to at least keep the turnover high. Okay, so when you keep
Okay.
the turnover high, your cash flow issues don't come at least. You may not make as much profit, but you at least have your cash flow going well, which is more critical for the short term, right? At the same time, we were devising strategies saying, what should we do next? Which products should we focus on, which will bring us more profit? Which is the markets we should go to where we were maybe not supplying before and go take more
Mm.
business now because we are seeing a slowdown. Okay, there are certain markets
Yeah.
the customer did not want to go. He was saying, I would not go. There are payment issues, there are financial issues. I mean, there are higher risk in certain markets, but in a bad market, you are forced to go. So that was
That is
part of the inherent business plan that we were making even then. But to say the truth, nobody was able to guess COVID. And even when the Chinese COVID came out and the discussion was there, the only issue some of my customers had was with supply from China. That was only
okay.
part of the influence they saw. And honestly, it was very difficult to predict that it's going to be such a pandemic going across the world. Even when the bird flu hit, it was not this bad. It was bad, but not so bad, right? So
Yeah.
it was like, okay, one more of those things, chikungunya, bird flu, dengue. I mean, we have had enough disease in India to take it lightly, right? Which a bitter
Yeah,
lesson
that's
that
true.
COVID has taught us this time, that you should prepare for the worst as well. So some of my customers were shut down for 2 months. Okay, but they had a contingency plan to cut down to the extent of the planning we had done, what supply should be curtailed and what markets they should cater to. So the impact of the COVID was surely felt, but the extent
Hmm.
of the intensity was much less than what it would have been if you had no plan in place. So to
Yeah,
that
that's fine.
extent, it helped. It was never going to fix the issue with a drastic situation like COVID. So I would not stake a false claim saying you can handle a pandemic. No, I think nobody in the world can give you a solution to a pandemic. That is the truth. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Uh, See, with this, in this context, I wanted to relate to instant, and just I want your explanation based on it. We all know Parley Industries,
Mm,
the biscuit giant. So it from the last quarter, their earnings, it has been found that the Parley G biscuit, that is the glucose biscuit, that was the largest seller, whereas the other brands, the heavier brands, were suffering the business.
correct.
So, as a business coach, so how would you have, if you are consulting with Parley, would you have been able to catch that Parley G would have been the best one to get into the market?
See, to answer your question, okay, it would have never been a surprise to Parle that Parle G is a selling product, because this is
Yeah.
normally their fastest moving product. Okay, it is the cheapest product they have. Okay, I think it's like 5 or 10 rupees a packet of Parle. I don't buy Parle G, but I guess
Yes.
it's somewhere in that price range. Okay, it is a common
Yes.
man biscuit that common men eat every day, whether COVID is there or not. Okay, when the COVID
Uh,
came in, oh, sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, see, what was happening is that what you said is right. They are eating it regularly. What happened is the sudden surge in the demand,
Correct.
because the people who have been going on the roads, most of them have been served with the Parle G biscuit, or that is
Correct.
what was available in the shops.
Right.
So, as a business coach, how would you manage the production and the supply chain on this sudden surge in a particular line of business?
Actually, the example you're taking is an easy example to solve. So it's easy solution,
Okay.
okay? Because normally you have your inventories are broken down with high value and low value inventories, okay? And your high
Okay.
value inventory is only 20% of your inventory. It's how it's by
Oh,
design.
okay.
It's an 80-20 rule, okay? Your highest value
Okay.
inventory will be less, and your volume seller will be your cheapest product, and you will hold 80% of your inventory. So Parle would have never
Okay.
faced a problem of shortage of Parle G, ever. Okay. Now, yes,
Okay.
their stock levels would have come down for sure. Okay, because their raw materials coming in and all would have been affected in the logistic, right? But they would fill the buffer of, again, they would have, in the case of FMCG, the good thing is they have distribution centers. So beside the
Hmm.
factory stock, you have distributor stock in different locations. So you have a sort
Okay.
of shock absorber at multiple levels, which will absorb a fast moving product. Now, if Morano or whatever that chocolate brand they have went out of stock, for sure you would been hit, because first he will be
Yeah.
having very small inventory of that because it's very expensive. Even his distributor and retailers will also hold less of it because not everybody buys that every day, right? So that would have been a problem to
That's true.
solve. You get my point?
Okay.
So actually, in this situation, everybody will go to their cheapest selling product, and because that is like bread and butter. Okay, any industry
Hmm.
you go to, whether it's manufacturing or FMCG or medical. Okay, what was selling in the medical industry? Okay, it was not liposuction and heart treatments. It was PP,
Yeah.
okay, and mask and antiseptic that was selling, because
Yes.
that was the, and at any time, even with all the situation, we were running out of stock. We were able to replenish it pretty quickly, right? If you see the industry, we were able to recover for PP very fast compared to what you would have had to do if, for example, I'm just trying to think of an example in medical field, saline water, right? It is one of the staples that you have for all the hospitals. Hospitals
Yeah.
inherently hold half their stock of saline water in the hospital, beside having
Okay.
stock in transit with the distributor and then the manufacturer. So it is like a fast moving product, like you said, Parleji. So any industry you go to, there is a fast moving product that is stocked huge. Except the larger chunk of your business would be catering to that market because that's a huge turnover, but a very low profit product. Okay, and the
Yeah.
Parle cheese that was sold during the COVID would have not seen a price reduction. Huh? The price would have been pretty much the same because already it is low price. But they would have reduced the
Yeah.
price of the other products on the MRP because that is where they would have to cut if they want luxury
No.
products to sell.
Okay. The question was like, say, nobody expected this is going to go along.
Correct.
So suddenly there is a surge in production in March. So as a coach, would you have predicted that even the June would be similar, or you would have taken a cautious step saying that no, let's keep a balance with the low cost product, and then depending on the sales we'll just move it, or how would you have played the game as such?
No, the first thing you do in any crisis situation, you go back to your fast seller. That is always a strategy in any business. You never go and try to supplement your high price products in a bad situation. So you keep your bread
Okay.
and butter moving forward. Okay, and once that deviation, in both cases, when there is a surge in the market or there is a drip in the market, the situation is bad for both. A base
Okay.
level is good for standard profitability of an organization. But if you
Hmm.
have a surge and you don't capitalize on the surge, you actually lose, right? Because that is
Okay.
the demand for a specific product. And if you don't have the inventory, you actually are a loss. You don't have a gain. People feel a good market is always positive. That's not true. It's how you capitalize brings the profit. Okay. And in a
Okay.
bad
Okay.
situation, it's not always bad. As you said, Palaji would have sold million more packets that they would have sold non-COVID. Correct? That was a huge opportunity in which I'm sure they capitalized on it. So my advice to anybody in a bad situation is, one is don't ever go and try to now say, okay, I'll go into hedge my bet on my niche products or my premium products. It may come true, but the risk factor is
Hmm.
huge. Okay, but on your fast moving products, even if you are going through a situation like COVID, once COVID releases, your fast moving will move fast. So you'll be able to turn over your inventory faster as well, even in a nominal situation, right? So your
Okay.
risk factor in a fast moving product is balanced more than a niche product because everybody in a crisis situation will hold back on buying a niche product. Car sales were hit. Okay, house purchases were hit. Buying clothing was hit. These were things that are I would like to have, not the needs. Okay, but people did not
Hmm.
stop buying food. People did not stop what you call doing things that day to day they had to do. Yes, they curtailed it. We became more frugal in this time, but we did not stop. We did not stop eating. We had to
That
eat,
is
right? So that's how the human mentality works, and that's how business also is driven. Eventually, your business is always 80% your low price business, and you make
okay.
80% of your profit from your premium product. You make 20% profit from the fast moving. So either which way, the risk overall to the business also is much more less impacted by a fast moving product. So my advice to Paliji or any other company would have been curtail your premium production and go and start producing more of your low price product. That would have been my advice.
Okay. It brings me to another question. Like there are so many business which is yet to start, like
Mhm.
hotel. Then you have this clothing. Clothing is not picked up.
Yeah.
Real estates, as you said.
Mhm.
So how would you revisit your business plan for these industries as such?
Okay, these that is actually the difficult question you just asked. Okay, an industry
Okay.
that is dependent on another industry is the one that is the most difficult to predict. Okay,
Okay.
hospitality by itself is not a product. Hospitality is dependent on other businesses doing well, and then hospitality goes up or goes down, right? So what you are trying to predict now is an unknown, right? You do not know when COVID is going to get okay. You do not know when your travel restrictions are going to be taken off. You do not know when social distancing is going to be something that you can contain. Even with disinfection, there is a high probability of spread of the COVID, right? So people are going to be more hesitant to stay in a hotel. I mean, default, I mean,
Yeah.
the situation. So that prediction is like the most difficult prediction to do, but not impossible. Okay. This is a time you need to reach out to your customer and not ask for a forecast, but actually ask for actual sale. So you actually do room
Hmm.
bookings. Okay. You actually go out to your corporate clients and ask them the ones that you already have, saying in the next month, forget even 3 months, what is the plan for you to organize conferences and have conventions or whatever? Okay. Now the picture may not be that it's going to be good. It may be horrible. It may be that they're going to sink. But that is the actual truth in a business plan. You can't make it look rosy. You can't make profit where there is no profit, to be fair, okay?
Okay.
But the point remains is that you will get a realistic picture of, yes, the segment that I was in is not going to work. I need to now identify another market segment where I need to go into that I've never done before. For example, I may have to cut my room rents by 50%. Okay, so be it. A five-star hotel rate today may be the rate of a two-star hotel. But then if they want to generate common, what you call traffic that would never come to a five-star hotel, that is the way they would go about and mobilize new business and new industry. But it's a temporary change they need to do, right? To bring in the cash flow and attract a low-priced business that is going to another segment of a market. So that's how you remodel
Okay.
your business. So you do a short-term change, okay, which may open up a new segment. If you know, there is a double tree part of Hilton, which is a business segment of Hilton. I'm sure you heard of it, right? They
Yeah.
are catering to the what you call middle level executive business across the world. Hilton is one of
Yeah,
the
that's
only
true.
organizations that have that, by the way. Huh? Marriott does not have
Yeah.
any feel like that, as far as I know. I've stayed in I think almost every five-star hotel, but this is a segment where I've actually gone and experienced. The rooms are not great, but they are not bad. Their quality is
Yes.
way better than any three-star hotel you can see, and almost close to the five-star. What you would lack it would be in facilities. The gym is comparatively less than a five-star gym. Okay, the swimming pool is less small. Okay, there is a swimming pool, but a small rooftop swimming pool. Your Kate, what you call chauffeuring services are less upgraded as the quality of chauffeur service you get. So they have made compromises which don't directly impact the quality of service, but they provide a premium service and they charge you a premium above what you would pay in a three-star hotel. But they are in a segment that's between two niches, a five-star niche and a low-end business segment, which they are trying to attract corporate business. So you could divert your whole Hilton business now, for example, if it's Hilton, and capture the whole DoubleTree business and downgrade DoubleTree to go even lower down in the business. Because that model is a cheap model. You have a product that is supposed to be low cost. That's why they're able to offer that price to the customer, right? So you will relatively lose less. You will definitely not make money there, but you will mobilize more business and your turnover will increase. So as you said,
That's true.
there is a short-term way of managing the business, and then you have to keep looking at the one-year period saying, how are things changing? Your current trend will tell you how you're sustaining in the short term and will start creating the base for you to look at the long term. Okay, so you manage your short-term cash flow issues, keep things moving forward, and keep planning and revising your annual plan, which is normally done twice a year, every quarter. So you bring down the periods of your forecasting, but do it more number of times. So that way you'll remove the
Okay.
shock and the deviation that could happen in long-term forecasting. I think we
Okay.
went
So,
very theoretical into this discussion now, but yeah, but that's
no,
the
it was
way planning is done.
no, it was interesting, and which brings me to a different question: is like, um, how we are going to see? This is a surge, which is a peak. It has peaked. The surge has peaked it to the maximum. Like Parleji, it has peaked it to the maximum.
Correct.
So, how would you plan the next coming year when it is reached the peak and it is going to decline? How do you plan the next what is it next for the first quarter and the second quarter? Because it would get into a very big shock because already you're on a peak and the next quarter is going to be like totally unpredictable. We don't know whether it is going to climb or it is going to fall flat. So how do you go about that?
Actually, that's a very good question and a normal thing that most businesses find struggle with to manage. It's actually not going into a crisis that's a problem. It is coming out of a crisis that has more damage. Okay,
Yes.
because as you said, certain products will see a surge, certain products will fall off the side. Okay, because the buying patterns and the way the businesses run will change and the priorities will change with the customer. Okay, so
Yes.
that time you don't predict far off. You try to predict as close as possible till it does not affect your supply chain. You don't build long-term businesses, you don't build long-term contracts, not now, because this is a bad
Okay.
time to lock yourself into a financial agreement, panicking that things could get worse. Because if things get worse, neither will the customer honor his contract. He will come back and negotiate a reduction in price, logically, because he cannot afford it either, right? So it's not a time to get into long-term agreements or long-term understandings. It is more about managing the short term in a crisis. Okay, as things
Okay.
start easing off, as I said, you forecast a quarter. Okay, you maybe forecast as long as a year. You forget about the 5-year plan right now. You are not going to now start thinking about investments and acquisitions, right? In this situation,
Okay.
it's actually not a bad idea. It's actually a good time to think of acquisitions and thing.
Acquisitions.
But do you have the money? Okay, do you have, if
Okay.
you are really a cash rich organization, you are seeing so many tie-ups, right? Geo is giving shares, selling shares to multiple people to manage their cash flow issues. Also, that this is a good opportunity for acquisitions if you are cash rich. But a
Yes.
general business that is in a survival mode, okay, and if that is the segment we are talking about, you do not look at long-term agreements in or long-term strategies in a crisis situation. You manage the short term with an eye on the long term, giving you a very broad spectrum of this is where I think I would go, and try to what you normally do is you do a 12-month forecast on every month. You rather break it down into 4 quarters, saying first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and I don't mean calendar quarters. I mean three months from now. Okay, you go
Okay.
on a 12-month cycle from the current month, and you predict yourself every quarter, saying how am I going to do in the next quarter. Okay, the next three
That's
months,
fine, but
yeah.
should, since we are coming out of this pandemic, should we not think about monthly rather than a quarter, because quarter is a too longer period?
No, my point
Uh,
is that see, in a normal forecasting, Praveen, you try to make every month like a bucket. Okay, because you have
No, that's true. That's on the normal situation. But
yeah,
when you are coming out of a crisis,
mm,
so we need to rejig the procedure, because if you play on a quarter, maybe the quarter prediction and the monthly prediction could be totally different, because it is on the drooping curve point of the curve.
you're right. See, that what you're saying is absolutely right theoretically, but what I'm trying to make a point here is that it is not worth putting the effort to break it down onto weekly into monthly buckets. Because in this
Okay.
situation, your seasonality does not affect your monthly sale. It is more the current crisis
Okay.
that you're in, right? So the first 3 months, yes, you do it on a monthly basis. First month, second month, third month, you have to do it on 1 month basis. But I'm saying the
Okay.
second and third and fourth quarter, there is no point in breaking it down by month because
Yeah,
whatever
I agree with
seasonality
you.
happened normally is not going to be there now. So you rather say
Yeah.
first quarter, first month, second month, third month, this is my plan by month. The fourth month onwards, I do it on three month buckets. Okay, which would most probably be accurate because whatever shock
Yeah,
you have
that's
in one
true.
month will compensate in the other 2 months, and in the quarter you'll be more accurate. So what you do when you get into a situation that is uncertain, you try and go a little bit broader in your level of forecasting so that you reduce the risk of deviation because you do not
Okay.
want to
Okay.
go huge up or huge down in already a shock market, right? Because if you have another
Yes.
deviation in your forecasting, again either you lose on your opportunity or you lose on your or you'll have too much inventory sitting down there. So you try and manage it with the way you do your forecasting, but you're correct. For the first 3 months, yes, you have to do it by month. In fact, try and see the visibility of your actual order booking itself.
Okay.
So the 1 month you should try and secure as much orders as you can in-house available for shipment. I mean, trust me, it's
Okay.
even more difficult in the current situation, by the way, to do that.
Yeah, when you say trying to secure more of the orders, so how we are going to help us in managing the financial shock which is going to come? Because I've never predicted myself or prepared myself for the financial shock to gain the maximum number of orders during that time.
No, see, look, I mean, to be fair, in your planning, you should be building up a buffer for your financials in any situation. Okay, a COVID
Okay.
should not come. Okay, COVID is a long-term problem. Okay, but if you had a shock in 1 month in your normal cycle, you would take a hit in your profits, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
you
true.
would have built in a buffer to carry you through that one bad month. So it's never business is never flat, right? Either it's a opportunity or a dip in sale, which was unexpected. So your normal cash flow issues, you would buffer yourself for a bad time, and you would utilize the funds that are sitting excess for an investment for whatever equipment or more inventory or whatever. Okay, you don't keep money sitting quietly in the bank. You have to keep turning over the money to have the ROI, right? So the point remains here is that you are planning at any moment of time for two scenarios, three scenarios. One is the base scenario, which you expect most probably is going to happen. You are having a plan B for if there is sudden surge. So you have the because when you are trying to serve a need, you also need more money to mobilize the supplies, right? Your cash flow
Yeah,
is
that's
still
true.
needed. I mean, your profit may not come the same month. You sell this month and you're giving credit of 90 days, you're going to see the profit in 3 months, right? So that buffering is needed either way, even in a good situation, I'm saying, right? Now, if you're
Okay.
cash and carry, that's a different ballgame, but there's very few businesses today that are cash and carry, right? So the point I'm trying to make here again is that You don't work month on month in any business normally itself,
Yeah.
because it's impossible to respond to the market shocks on a monthly basis. You'll either have too much or too little, and eventually you'll go out of business. So you, at a bare minimum, you should be buffering yourself at least for a quarter. Okay, expecting that there'll be a fluctuation. You don't expect a COVID to be there for like 8 months or 1 year. That is just, there's no business model that can be built for a situation like that. Okay, you build a
Okay.
model with
Okay.
a probability, you build up a base scenario saying, this is what I expect to happen. If it goes up, I'll manage my cash inflow, I'll manage my profitability, I'll manage my normal profits like this. And if it goes down, I will cut off certain supply, which will also cut down my input cost, will bring down my profitability as a percentage of my overall turnover, but my turnover will not be affected. That's what you should try and mitigate by a drop in sale as well, right? You
Okay.
reduce
Okay.
you have your profit percentage less, but turnover should not come down to that extent. I
That's good.
hope
That's
I
an
didn't confuse
interesting.
the whole question. Huh? I
No,
tried to
no, no.
explain as much
It
as I
was
could.
interesting to understand. I say as a businessman, we think differently because we are under too many things which is controlling our thought process on that. I wanted to know what would be the point as a coach, because you are a person away from business but looking into the business on a third eye or on a deep perspective of it. So that was my thought to ask you the question: how would you see from outside, and how would you help an entrepreneur to what to say, to get the benefit of the business plan and move forward on
That's when my true value comes, Praveen, is when people are in crisis. That's when,
it?
since I'm outside the picture, okay. See, even if I was in that business, I will panic as well. I mean, anybody in the situation will react, right? You bring in a
Okay, yeah,
third
true.
party who is not directly involved to give you a neutral view. Okay, and that person
That's
should be
true.
able to call a spade a spade. And that's when you get a reality check of, oh, okay, I can move my sentiment out of the decision making and react logically, which is a very difficult thing to do in a crisis. Okay, because your all your senses are in survival mode. It's saying, do this, do that, do this, do that, try to survive. And you're not listening to your normal common sense that tells you, cool down, go this way, because you are not in that mode to react. So I don't think any businessman should feel bad that they react that way, because that is normal human survival instinct. So that's what that keeps me employed as well. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
I'm out there to do that mitigation part of the discussion.
Now, if you remember the Jack Ma saying during this COVID, he said just stay alive. Don't forget about making money on it. We have still
Absolutely.
enough time to make money. Just stay alive. So
If you're not alive, there is
that's
no
a
money
nice
to
thing.
make.
No, it's what he says is, in a fact, if you see, the moment you start thinking about money, then you start taking unwanted risk on it.
Yeah,
So now
compromise.
you are in a risky situation. It is better to stay calm and look at the better opportunities rather than rushing your blood into something which is more unpredictable on that.
True, true, very true. Right, Praveen, I think we overshot our time by almost 25 minutes more,
Yeah,
but it was so interesting. And even I also didn't realize the time is almost an hour. So
hope
we'll
people,
cut this session
all
short.
of them enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation with
Yeah,
you.
me too. I absolutely enjoyed it. So we'll carry on this conversation next week as well. Okay, we'll
Yeah,
pick
sure.
another topic which is related to the same part about how do we manage the current situation, and maybe we'll ask some of the viewers to leave us some suggestions in the comment box, so we could take one of those and maybe answer them like a Q&A and try to address the topics that they are interested in viewing as well. Yeah,
Yeah, that should be fine. That should be fine, Grenville, because you are looking as a consultant and I would look as an entrepreneur. So we will have a two different thought process, which I think we could debate on it as such when
sure,
we
sure,
go through it.
absolutely. So anyway, Praveen, thanks for your time. I know you have been traveling a lot last week, so enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll catch up next week in another session then.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Grenville. Thanks.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.